Kiana might be driving. She might not be able to key up.
Can you guys hear me?
There you are.
Yep.
Hey.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm wrapping up from work and getting ready to head in the car. But just introduce myself real quick to the group. I'm Kiana Wells. Got a background in construction management, and have used drones in that space for, I guess, the last year and a half or two. Joined AUVSI as the Education Outreach Coordinator, and really just here to learn and share what I know with everyone.
Cool. I'm Nicole Ramsey. I'm the secretary of AUVSI North Carolina. Been the public safety coordinator, and I do a lot of the background. I do the technical. I do the online posting, run the meetings and all that stuff, and have a public safety background. So yeah, that's what I do.
And Nicole's invisible right now because she has her sunglasses on.
Yep.
So anyone who remembers Big Daddy, the movie, I'm pretty sure I'm not dating myself here, but I can still see Nicole.
Oh, I know.
But anyway, I mean, if we want to keep talking maybe about like any of the topics that we might have had outlined here, I see some familiar faces in the group here: Ron, Scott Schaffman, Tony, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to see you jumping on here, Kevin. It'd be exciting to catch up on what's happening with drone delivery, but thanks for tuning in. And if we wanted, I don't know, potentially discuss, is there anything, Nicole, specifically that I don't know why, but something about remote ID just keeps hit me in the back of the head, because I don't know if maybe someone on here specifically, I don't know why that thing keeps coming up, but that or anything else. Is there anything that anybody that's joining us that's not necessarily associated with part of the North Carolina chapter team? Is there any information or any kind of developments in the industry that anybody's looking to share or to talk about, bring up?
I see what Mike Rogers put into the chat. Did Mike Rogers want to talk about his thing real quick?
Yeah, I can. We are kind of a niche thing. We do aerostats, which of course are unmanned. We have worked some in the past, but haven't pushed it very much in the counter UAS, counter drone space. And been around for quite a while. I remember AUSI before they added the I. So been quite a number of years. But just had a little time to sit in on this. At some point, maybe not this time, but I want to explore people's insurance areas. We wonder if we're paying the right amount of money for insurance, or we're getting taken, or whatever, in terms of operation. Since our systems are tethered, we've seen that what we're paying seem to be fairly high, but don't have any real numbers to compare it with.
And that's a great insurance. I know, John, that was one of the questions that you had brought up, like really early on when you first became part of the discussions, was like, what is everybody else using for insurance and what are they paying? And, you know, I know some people just don't have it depending on the size of the organization. And I'm not saying that anyone should or shouldn't, but I think that's one of those conversations that until pilots actually begin to open up and talk to one another, whether or not we aren't being taken advantage of, I don't think people will know until you potentially start comparing. And if people are at a point where they're willing to do that is also important. And And thanks for joining. Aerostats are huge and important. I know the Fayetteville Police Department, they have a robust drone program, but they've also went ahead and acquired the aerostat as well, because it just provides, a whole range of benefits that, your standard UAS isn't going to, especially when it comes to longevity, right? The ability to stay up for a longer extended period of time, especially when you're looking at maintaining like Overwatch, and movement is a real key thing, because if one aerostat can take one or a person team and just force multiply them from an oversight ability.
Yeah, basically, we tell people if they want a quick look, go get a drone.
So I don't know, is there any, John, what do you think? Have you,
You know what I could do,
is there anyone else on the call right now that's found
Paul,
success?
Paul, what I'll do, this is a great topic, and I'm going to pull out all my insurance documents and my quotes and all that, and I'm going to do this in our next New York AUVSI, and then what I'll do, I'll share that the next day with you guys, and so I'll get a good idea what's going on with what we're paying up in New York. Down, you guys check what you guys are paying down in North Carolina. I got a feeling it's location, 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 location. That's my spin on it. I don't know if that's true or not. It might be more money to insure yourself in New York than it is in Raleigh. I don't know. Or maybe it's more in Raleigh. I don't know. The point is, it would be a very interesting comparison and very necessary. And see, when I go to global aerospace, even through a broker, it's pretty much the same. That's pretty across the board. But when we get the local, your omissions and errors and omissions and general liability, I mean, Mike, it's like, where are these numbers coming from? And I think this is a great topic for us to look at. The other topic came out of Adrian Doku. Adrian's out of Texas, and he was mentioning, and Scott, verify this. You guys, what you want to do in the future is help the pilots learn how to be pilots. We all learn how to do a 107, but now AUVSI, according to Adrian, has plans to step in and teach pilots how to fly safely. That's something you guys are working on, correct?
Yeah, what you're touching on is probably the top operator program. It's actual practical training and flight that got put in a number of years ago and has kind of lapsed a little bit. We're trying to potentially revive some of that. For everybody who doesn't know who I am, my name is Scott Stoffman. I'm based in Texas. I was on the board of the Lone Star chapter up until a few weeks ago, and I've now joined the AUVSI headquarters side, working on grassroots advocacy and chapter engagement. So I'm going to be out there working on policy and advocacy at the state and local level, and then also working with our chapter leaders and members to try and help them deal with all these kinds of things. So happy to be here. And, whenever I got in the drone service side about 5 years ago, for me, I wasn't flying a ton every single day. So on-demand insurance from a actual ad hoc perspective was great. I know that there are certain states where you can't do stuff like that on-demand insurance, like a Verifly or a Skywatch or some of those, but they've kind of figured that out over the years where you can get those kind of monthly plans and stuff like that.
I've used that, Scott. I've used Verifly. When I was, this year I certainly did. COVID really hurt my business, so I backed off my spending. So, I'm coming back into it with Verifly, and it's helpful. It's definitely helpful. But I think I don't know if Darshan's listening. Hi, Darshan. I see your face. Hi. But what I have to bow out today. I can't spend the whole time, but I think, Scott, the way I looked at it, you're the new Amanda, right? Yeah.
So I'm going to be handling, a lot of things that Amanda was handling on the chapter engagement side, but also adding a strong policy bend to that. My position specifically is under the advocacy and policy arm. I'll be working with Wilbur and his team on chapter stuff and membership stuff, but we're really trying to utilize our chapters and our members to be involved in those conversations at the state and local level, so we can force multiply AUVSI as an organization, because y'all are out there, you know what's going on, you have a handle on who your legislators are, what kinds of things are popping up, what you're dealing with day to day, and we can work with you to provide, bullet points or talking points on stories or calls into legislators, and then letting you bring, hey, this legislation is good or bad for me as a business owner, as a voter, as somebody who lives and works here. And it's better than us just saying as a national org, like, well, our members don't like this or they do like this. And so finding a way to really bring everybody else into the conversation and hopefully advance things at the state and local level more than we've been able to in the past.
That's great. So I'm going to bow out because I got to go. It's always good to see everybody. Ron, Nick, Nicole. I don't know if Darshan's listening, but I see his face. So hi.
Yeah, I'm
And,
here. Happy New
Oh,
Year.
there you are. Hi, pal. How are you? Okay.
Good, good.
Good.
So-
So I
so
got to
before-
bow out. I have something
before
else
you
to
leave-
do.
So before you leave, I don't know if it was updated, but Riley has become the new U.S. program manager for North Carolina Department of Transportation. So he started this week.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. That's great. Congratulations to him. So I'm going to bid goodbye. What I will do, Nicole and Scott, we'll speak to you tomorrow in AVSI Empire State. And I think that's at 10 o'clock your time and 11 at mine, right? Is that?
I believe so.
Okay. And then I will take a look at what the insurance we're paying up here with my members and share that with you guys down in North Carolina next month. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you for
thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for keeping it all going. Really appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
And Mike, I know you're talking about aerostats. We've got Tony White here, and he mentioned in the chat he works on lighter than air ships and things of that nature. So he might be able to add a little bit something closer to what y'all are working on.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, let me quick intro. Yeah, Tony White, Galaxy Unmanned Systems. We've been doing unmanned airships since the 2000s. We started with small ones and ended up just before they shut down the airspace, we're up to 75-foot airships carrying Cineflex V14 high-def cameras. Those are the same ones they use on full-size helicopters and blimps. So we got to do a couple of broadcasts for ESPN, for the NHRA. We were going to switch over to PGA, but then we got the death letter from the FAA, our cease and desist, and pretty much everything got shut down. Switched over to DOD. Now we're relaunching. Now that we reestablished Galaxy Unmanned Systems around 2015, and we've won 3 contracts, two phase 1 STTR and SBIR, one for the Army, one for the Air Force, and we're now on a phase 2 for the Air Force, building a 35-foot prototype, partnering with the University of Texas Arlington to do a fully autonomous airship. And the customer is Border Patrol, CBP, Border Patrol, and the Coast Guard. So in about 8-9 months, we'll be going down to Corpus Christi and doing demos on the border and working on sequential phase 2s. And right now, it's if anybody's doing the SBIRs and STTRs, we got deadlines coming up pretty soon. So we're always looking for industry partners for some of the subjects, because us being a small company, we can be the lead on pretty much anything UAS, anything swarm. We did a couple of proposals for which you yet to hear about, because we want to launch and recover drones off the airship. So that's part of the swarm, developing an airship network. We played with we were in the aerostat business for a long time, for about 6 years, with a program called PGSS, and that was out in Yuma. We deployed 22-meter and 28-meter TCOM aerostats to Afghanistan. So we developed a whole training program for that. Aerostar was another early vendor, so lots and lots of experience with aerostats. And we Skydock, I don't know if you heard about them. They're kind of similar to your design. And Skydock, when they started doing the circular stats, and those seem to be making a pretty good impact lately. So yeah, so we got experience in both realms. And on the drone side, we built two big quadcopters to support a contract we have with Bell Helicopter that we're fixing to sign this year. And they added on two fixed wing. So we'll be supporting two 10-pound capable quadcopter drones, and 140-inch UAV and 120-inch UAV to do support contracts for Bell Helicopter. So we'll be ramping that up pretty soon.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. We've our niche has been the smaller aerostats. Everything we do is biggest we do is mounted on a single trailer that you can tow behind a pickup truck or whatever, rather than some of the, you know, if you want the big stuff, you can go over to Elizabeth City and get TCOM to
Been there.
make you one with, you know, if you got $3 or $4 million in your pocket. But if you don't have that, you might want to talk to us. But yeah, our niche has been more on the we built some systems that also went to Afghanistan through the Army Rapid Equipping Force. And that's the last I heard of them. One of my pet peeves is they wouldn't even give me feedback on what worked and what didn't.
Yes, and when you guys were asking about insurance, back in the day, we used a company called IMC Balloon Insurance. I don't know if they're still around. They did our airships. And now you just find any local insurance contractor. They're pretty much.
Why don't you give it another try, Tony? I think he muted. You're getting some feedback on Kevin's side.
Why did you?
I think I muted the wrong bird. I tried to mute. Was it Tony was talking?
Yeah.
Let's see.
There we go. I think
There
my
we go.
back.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So yeah, on the insurance side, when we were doing the airships back in the day, we just used company called IMC Balloon Agency. It was like $2,000 a year, $2 million coverage, and they were really good to us. And when we sold the airships, they would cover. Now, like with the Air Force, when we do these flights out in, that we have to get what's called an Air Force waiver, UAS waiver, and that's how we're going to be able to fly. We don't even know, because we're a little bit big for 107, but it's a lighter than air aircraft. So we got a lot of issues to work out with the FAA on what category we fit in. And since this is more of a DoD thing, it's still flying in civil space, but flying under the Air Force waiver is going to be different. So, and we have to be commercialized in the commercial space. So we really haven't even started those talks yet, because the Air Force doesn't even have a process yet. So everybody's kind of behind the curve on what you're going to be, and that affects your insurance. That affects how it's going to be operated. So we don't even know what they're going to require. But for the Bell contract, we just used a local group that started carrying, a local firm that started carrying, and would turn it on when we went out. And I think we were paying like
Scott Shulman.
So it's like $2,500 an event, something like that. We turned it on per event, because if not, it was going to be pretty high a month if we just kept it on. So I think that's the way insurance companies are starting to go, is either you full coverage all the time or you just turn it on during events.
Hey, I'm curious, Tony, have you guys seen it? Because I felt so stupid when I was talking to like Fayetteville Police Department, and the U.S. program manager's like, yeah, we just got a couple of these aerostats. And here I am, like someone that's been involved in aviation since I got out of high school. I'm a manned aircraft pilot. And I'm like, what the hell is an aerostat? You know, like I had to Google it and look it up. And it was just this like weird moment for someone who's really only been exposed to typical, you know, fixed wing rotorcraft aviation, and then having gotten involved in drones commercially and, you know, the last 5 years, hearing you and I think it's Mike, you know, basically learning that there's different, just like there's $100,000 drones, just like there's $400,000 drones, and there's also $2,000 drones, right? What fits in your budget? Would you say that you've seen like aerostats gain momentum and like, I don't know, developmental traction since the introduction of 107?
Well, no,
Or has it been a negative, like a?
Well, we've had them around forever. Aerostats have been around, and airships. So we don't do aerostats, we do unmanned airships. So it's a free flying airship. It's not tethered to anything. It's a blimp, basically.
Okay.
And I'm showing you this here. This is the small one that goes in the trailer. That's the 35 footer. That's the one we're doing now with the Air Force. And what we're proposing is the big one, the one flying above the mooring platform. That's an 80-foot ship. And the thing about the airships is that we can carry very large payloads for a long, long period of time. And we can also do a lot. We're kind of ideal in this new world of testing and validation and airspace integration, because we can lift products like all the stuff off of driverless cars. We can just put right on the airship and go test and evaluate. Where and we can fly for hours, and technically we're a right-of-way aircraft, and the smallest one we make is 35 feet, which is bigger than a 172. So we don't have the issue of not being seen. So this is what we're also proposing to the Air Force, to have us do, validation, airspace validation coming into like controlled airspace. That's our concept for launch and recovery. We got fixed wing, we got multicopter, we got the tilt wing. These guys are actually, we signed a deal with them to develop a system to launch and recover their drone. So as you can see on the left here, this has been back since the 30s. So the concept isn't new, it's just refining it. We just found that the airship, I can carry so much payload safely, and our crashes are more comical than disaster. It's a bouncy ball rolling around on the ground versus a ballistic missile or a death-wheeling chopping machine coming down. So specifically for Air Force and AFWorks, they want to do the Uber in the sky, the Uber copters. And to do all that testing, we're kind of a good test bed to go validate, the see and avoid, validate all this stuff that they want to test in a safer manner, along with doing useful work with mainly ISR, putting big cameras on it, doing border interdiction, border patrol. And when we flew the aerostats in Afghanistan, we would put them up over FOBs, forward operating bases. And so the safety for the wall around the FOB with like raid towers and just guys looking over the wall shooting at enemies, you're talking, probably a mile and a half is about as effective as they were away from the wall. As soon as we started launching aerostats, it became 30 miles. So at 30 miles out that we can see and kill people that were trying to do bad things around the FOB. So that made a huge splash for LTA. Even though we had been using them, no one kind of like put two and two together. And we were always praying the whole time we're in there, like, how about, would you like it if we cut the tether? Just cut the tether, and now you have the same payload capacity, the same long duration of flight times. Now I'm not hampered by being in one spot. I can move around. So that's what we're pushing forward. This Air Force is really keen about it. Border Patrol is dying to get it down at the border, and it still hasn't reached its maturity yet of what it's going to end up being. And that's the exciting part of it now, is developing it. And it's really good working through these programs where we have to partner with the university, because university is developing the autonomous system, because we want to get the airship down to full autonomy to be able to launch and recover fully autonomous, get rid of, reduce. Right now, the big Achilles heel of all of the aerostat and airship systems is the crew. The systems we sent to Afghanistan had a crew of 12. And the bigger airships and like blimps, they have crews to 6 to 12. And we're trying to get ours down from, right now we're around 4. We want to get that down to 2. And that is the biggest gripe we hear. The biggest gripe is anywhere is the manpower that's required for LTA. So being able to get rid of that and reduce it, it opens up more opportunities for us and more opportunities for the platform. So we've done a lot of design. We put everything in CAD. We're using the flow charts, and we've refined the design since we got shut down in 2007. That's all we've been doing, is refining the design in CAD, using flow programs off of we grab on like 2 more engineers. My specialty is more just kind of figuring out what we're going to do with them. If you look at the top right here, this is back in the day. It's RC, regular RC flight control blimp doing Chick-fil-A, dropping cows over a concert. That's the kind of work we did along with broadcasting. Now it's more tactical. It's more integration of airspace. The apps keep changing on what we can and can't do.
That's amazing. I think like looking at the slide that you had, it reminds me of that video that went out about maybe 12 months ago, where it actually shows like the Amazon airship, and it has the little drones coming out of it as if they were going off to do drone deliveries. So I think it's fascinating that, someone does that for fun in CGI, and then, other people see it. And I'm not saying you saw it, and I'm not saying you're copying that, but other people see things and then they actually find ways to kind of make them happen. And I can't let you go full Michael DeCourt on us. And if you don't know who that is, look him up on LinkedIn. But I do want to say that I'm sure airships are safe and amusing to watch when they have accidents. But in general, and I think we've seen with the different categories of drones that are coming out here, and it relies on manufacturers themselves to develop safety, especially with drone delivery and Part 135 and things like that. But I wouldn't say, just can't let you go full Michael DeCourt and talk about no prop guards and let's not completely misrepresent the fact that like drones might be this terrible ballistic missile, should something happen.
No, it's just the potential. I'm in this market of drones as much as anybody else. It's just that's the dichotomy difference. That's just a difference between us and drones. It doesn't say drones are bad, doesn't say they're any more dangerous. It's just the potential of hazard. Ours is just less. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying it's less.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about lighter than air, though, is you can get it where they fall up, which if you don't have a way of making sure it can come down means that, you can be off in the boondocks working somewhere and you lose control of it. It may wind up in another country or going over the airports or whatever. So the FAA has to worry about that.
Yes, we have flight termination systems that don't let us do that. And with the aerostats, we lost them in Afghanistan. They just shot them. We got an F-16 to go shoot them down.
Yeah. Although they're not that easy. They don't leak very much.
Oh, that was crazy. Everybody assumed you shoot it goes down, man. When the aerostat first hits country, the Afghanis just shoot the crap out of it and just didn't understand. It's like a pincushion. You're not hurting it. And it still could stay up for another week and then would bring it down, patch all the holes and go back up. It was very hard to bring down.
That's fascinating. It makes me think
of an air category. Are you seeing any issues with the helium shortage and everything that's going on right now?
Yes, and that's why we're working on helium recovery systems. We have a helium recovery system. When we pull the helium off, we can repurify it. And then hydrogen is another, this is another far out concepts we're looking at is hydrogen helium mix, and doing a hydrogen envelope that actually runs hydrogen fuel cells to run the power. So there's a whole bunch of different areas that have been poking out at us for the actual lighter than air gas.
It's free.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, helium is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I was curious how stats we're going to fare with that. So.
It comes and goes. It depends on what season you're in, but helium is it's always running out, but then it's not.
Would you mind?
It's funny you say that, Kevin, because I thought that was interesting. When one of the reasons that Fayetteville police hadn't had a chance to put their, the aerostat they had up yet was because they hadn't been able to get the fuel. And I probably could sound totally stupid right now because I don't know anything about aerostats. But the need to maintain access to that, whereas if you have a drone, you don't necessarily have to ask permission or get a for plugging in your charger. That people just kind of the department launches a electric bill in order to power this fleet of aircraft, whereas you bring on that aerostat, that's another one of those things that just that I've recognized is accounted for with the program. And I don't know anything about helium shortages, but it sounds like really every there's not any one specific thing that doesn't have its obstacles that you have to kind of overcome. And I know I've heard you present or talk before about what you're doing, Tony. I think it might have been on Clubhouse, but it's really fascinating to continue to hear about the progress you guys are making with your products.
Yeah,
It's slow and steady. You know, we don't. Back in the day, we had investors, and the funding has always been the issue. But with these SBI, that's why I try to encourage people to look at this stuff, because we've raised $1.5 million of free money with these 3 programs, and then we got the next round coming in. We're going after 1.1 million, and then after that, there's a directed phase 2 for 4. So you know, I think we've done like 48 or 50 proposals and only have turned 3. But those 3 have really kept us, you know, no investor. We just, this is how we're going. Plus the Bell contract, but we wouldn't have been this way without those programs.
Yeah. Tony, sometimes send me an email if you will. I put my email in the chat function. We got a lot of things we ought to talk to each other about.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad you said that, because I was going to encourage anybody that's on the call right now. What I'm hearing Tony say is that they have lots of opportunity, and they don't even necessarily have all the potential resources to take advantage of all the various opportunities right here in this great state of North Carolina. We've got Fort Bragg, you know, I don't think it's the largest population by size, but the largest, you know, by square mileage, like one of the largest military installations in the country. So anyone that is in the North Carolina area or outside of North Carolina that is joining in, definitely reach out to Tony to find out, you know, if there's any way to support, you know, what they're doing, and to help bring potential business to North Carolina. Yeah, so go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, no, since we've won contracts and we're getting very good at it, and you guys need to start getting on the AFWorks and Air Force, Navy, all of them put out RFPs and requests for proposals. And if you have anything close, if you have an antenna, if you have this and that, and as long we go in as prime, but we can do the split where the split's 80-20. What I think our minimum amount of split is like 40%, 20 to 40%. So we can push other products. I mean, it doesn't even have to be related really to UAS. If you got anything, it's just you have to qualify as a small business, and that's what we've done. And it's a lot of development just to get your DUNS and get all your stuff in line so you can be a contract awardee. So anything UAS related, anything that jumps out, and if you hit us up, we will write a proposal for pretty much anything.
And I wanted to just to potentially transition the conversation here, but kind of still keep it the same. One of the things you mentioned was like the size of these vehicles. So the ability to integrate into the national airspace, especially controlled airspace, right? The B, the C, the D, and the other things, you know, among that nature is maybe potentially above 400 feet, right? Which is, I think, is where a lot of these platforms are going to excel is above 400 feet. As you mentioned, like it's a large vehicle, and the big concern folks have with like drones is we're taking the ability to just compact it into the size of a shoe, right? And it can zoom 30 or not 30 miles, but it can zoom 3, 4, 5 miles. Yeah, but no one can see it. Yeah. So when you try to integrate that into the national airspace system, it's much more challenging. I think it's harder being a manned aircraft pilot. I would rather know that if a call out is, hey, you've got a 30 meter airship to your 9 o'clock, it's going to be way easier for me to probably identify and locate that versus, you know, these small drones or smaller drones. So well, I think
we pushed back in 2006. We were on the second ARC, and no one was thinking LTA. We pushed LTA, and finally we got on there as an addendum, and then they took it off. Oh, it's just too late. And at the end of that ARC, we demoed at Quantico, Virginia. We demoed our system AeroVironment was there, In Situ was there with the Scan Eagle. AeroVironment, I think I had the Puma or the small one, and a couple other companies were doing demos. And then we had a 60-foot ship out with the full camera doing a demo. And FAA was like, "Oh, it's great, wonderful," and then silence for 9 years. I mean, they shut it down for 9 years. And now that it's restarting again, we're not even considered an aircraft platform for the beyond line of sight arc. Well, now that arc's kicking off, I'm like, why? We were flying in Class B airspace when we flew with full endorsement of the FAA. We flew under 9157 and we coordinated, and we had to do this all on our own. They didn't have a procedure for us to do it, and we did it, and we got it endorsed by the FAA back in the 2000s. So people to say that this hasn't been done before isn't true. We've done it. We've been in Class B right next to Love Field, flying with full coordination with the tower. We've done beyond line of sight with airships on a routine level before. So what everybody's kind of proposing and surprised as possible now has been possible for years. It's just trying to stay relevant and now we're desperately trying to get some kind of mention on the arc, trying to get LTA to look at us. And with this, we're going to get hopefully a lot of visuals doing this stuff for the border, going down the border patrol and doing these flight corridors that they're trying to develop here in the DFW area, in Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're trying to develop flight corridors for these Uber aircraft. And this isn't 400 feet. This is like 1,000 to 2,000 feet. And these are basically just big, huge multicopters carrying people. And they want to pave the way to figure out how do we deconflict this airspace, and we're like a good test bed for that. But we're really trying to push the LTA and trying to get us included as a type of aircraft.
Yeah, I want to encourage you in that whole area, because the problem that we've seen with the FAA too, that they don't know what to do with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can tell you is that the best place to go is probably to reach out to the UAS integration office. And, likely right now, what you're talking about is the 44807. It's just a question of how are they going to weigh you out? Like, is your all up weight considered what you are deflated, or what you are, inflated and buoyant and all that kind of stuff? And how do they assess the risk? And
I think they opened the door for us when they, under the new, the new flying over people, when they put that newtons per delivery, whatever it was.
The kilo, the force, the transfer
joules.
force.
The joules.
Kinetic
we
energy.
would be underneath that with an airship, way under. Well, because you're talking about a quadcopter on a parachute. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about how big is how slow do I have to slow this thing down to have minimal force impact? We're already there. So as a natural state, because we only fly 2 to 3 pounds heavy. So that's part of the verification we're going to get with the universities, is doing these studies of impact. Because I think the conversation, if you're going to throw that in there, then that could be an over 55 pounds, as long as my kinetic energy isn't over that.
Another good place to go might be the standards development organizations like ASTM. If you can get in there, because if you could get looped into like a means of compliance, that makes sense, especially for ops over people.
Yeah, that's money though. ASTM wants money. They all want money, and
it's $75 to be an individual member. You get voting rights. It depends if you're a producer, but you can get involved in the working groups and be a part of those discussions. And
I'm talking about hiring them for the studies.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking. It's great being part of all these, but to actually do something, this is where everybody glazes over. It's cost. And what we know is already common sense. We just have to validate it. But in the validating, it's expensive to get these endorsements and do all this. And this is why we're not really pushing it right now, because we're going through this Air Force program, the UAV Air Force, through their drone endorsement program. That might get us through, because if we're flying there and we've already done it, we've already circumvented, because it's under DOD. It already got
you're under their COA. You're certified by them to operate in the airspace on their liability, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what, though, whether the standard is developed for the lighter than air or for the drone, there's always going to be the cost associated with proving. Like right now, if you look at type certification of UAS under 55 pounds for drone delivery, right? 45. So ASTM says 45 successful deployments of the parachute. And those have to be all done under 45 varying conditions. And that's how you can demonstrate that the joules, right? It's putting it on the manufacturer to not just say, hey, this is lighter than air. This is, it's when it falls, it's not going to hurt anybody. But now you have to demonstrate that. And until that's demonstrated, and what it sounds like is maybe there isn't a standard, but this is opening the door for and I guess my question would be why, if lighter than air and aerostats have been around since the 30s, has there not been a push for developing these standards, whereas drones have been around for maybe a decade, and we've seen, I guess,
No. Multicopters have been around. Drones and UAVs have been around since the dawn of aircraft. So we've been doing this since the 70s and 60s. My dad did it in the 60s. So this isn't new. This is parallel.
They just haven't existed, easily accessible.
Or I could go to Walmart and buy it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different thing, but the drones are not new. This isn't new. None of this stuff we're doing is new. It's just the fact that
so then the amount of
for piloting has gone down.
Yeah. So the benefits that that rotorcraft now present have gotten to the point where, like, industry wants them, police want them, the construction industry wants them, education wants them, law firms want them for eminent domain cases, content creators want them. Like, there's such a need, as I think what you're saying is it's not that they haven't been around. The benefits of these things are so overwhelming at this point that it's worth throwing money at it. It's worth putting money into the equation in order to because if you look at drones, in order to get a category 3 or a category 2 sticker, you're going to have to submit, your declaration of compliance to the FAA. You're not just going to be able to say this drone's 2 pounds, so if it falls 50 feet, it's going to produce X number of joules. You're going to have to put that through the paces. So it's like
this validation.
Is aerostats lighter than air is getting there.
See, we're all for that, but I have to validate through university and through like ASTM. I don't, you under the drone one, you can do your own testing, I guess, film it, but someone has to come out and validate those 40 tests. Who's going to be your outside person to validate those tests?
If you want to go and do that ASTM parachute certification, you need to go to a place like, New Air or somebody like that, a test site.
North Dakota's, UAS test planes. But it's a cost of.
Well, in discussion here, the weight on lighter than air, the fact that it's lighter than air isn't really relevant. It's the mass.
Yeah, mass weight.
So, if doesn't matter if you got 100 pounds of mass and it's huge, or you got 100 pounds of mass and it's the size of a shoebox, it's still going to put the energy into whatever it hits.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. It's the falling so slow and the energy that it hits, but it's dispersed energy. So if I'm hitting you with a ball with a bag, even though it's got 200 pounds behind it, it's still not going to squish you like a bug. It's going to just knock you to the ground or push you to one side, and because it's not coming down at any kind of ballistic level. So that's our challenge with turning that into a quantical thing, a measured thing that is acceptable. And like I said, they already opened the door. I could meet that and then keep addressing these things as they come up. That's how we work with the FAA. We come up with a solution, they'll throw a bunch of holes in it, and then we'll go back to the drawing board and try to do more solutions. That's how it works. It's how it's always worked.
And I can't tell you specifically what's going to come out of the ARC because we're not allowed to, but I've been involved in those discussions, and there are a lot of intelligent people that are there talking about it and trying to place these risks in a language that the FAA is willing to accept. From their perspective, they want to understand severity and likelihood in the event of a catastrophic failure. How bad is it going to be, and what's the likelihood that it's going to happen, and how do we measure that? How do we put it in a universal framework that makes drone operators comfortable, that makes traditional aviation operators comfortable, that makes people on the ground comfortable, right?
And aircraft agnostic. Doesn't matter what aircraft. That's the problem. They're focusing on, that is a problem with all of this. They always focus in on one type. excludes the other types. And if you, I don't have a problem with you saying newtons per pressure. Then it doesn't matter what it is. I don't care. But when they start specific, you have to have a parachute. Because they can't think of any other types of aircraft. And unfortunately, and I've been, like I said, I've been doing this 35 plus years. You have to be a part. You can never assume that they're not going to wall you out and not even think about it, because that would happen in the second arc. The second arc, LTA wasn't even considered, but there were so many benefits to it. There was not a reason at the time for them to say no. They just said no anyway, because they wrapped us all in a bubble, and this is what we're trying to not keep from happening.
Yeah. You need a champion inside the FAA, or you need somebody that's got some political capital in DOT or, congressional side, I think, that can get you into those discussions and get that in front of the right people.
We're on that road because I think if we can justify our use on the border, we're a use, and then that will, we already know, we've already done it with Afghanistan, with the big systems. And what's funny is we're going backwards because we couldn't get enough funding to do a big one. So now we're going a small one. And we're still going to, a company called Hood Tech is loaning us the camera, and that's the same camera on the Scan Eagle. That's pretty close to like an MX-15 to what we really want to fly. So I can get pretty close mimicking what we want to do. But for us, it's like a huge step backwards. But that's the only route we have right now. That's the only funding that was available. And it's going to take a little time, but I think we'll get it going. And I think that use case runs everything. If you have a good use case, I think you can make stuff happen, and as long as you don't piss off too many people with your use case. So,
very cool. It's always fun talking to you, Tony, and I appreciate Paul jumping on the conversation. Mike, it's good to meet you, and Chief Bailey, or who knows, different Bailey. Wayne, you're on the fireside, but different. Do you see all the stuff like that? Wayne jumped on all quiet. I know Jim's on here. We didn't hear from you. Kevin, you had a couple things to say earlier, I thought, but I know, Nicole, you're still here. We're hitting top of the hour, so I'm going to jump, but I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm happy to be involved in the discussion. It's fun.
No, this has been great to see everybody back together, and I kind of like the unstructured format. It's been actually really interesting to see what comes up and learn about the aerostats here.
Yeah, we probably want to do this more often, as opposed to having the complete schedule of everything we were doing.
Yeah, and thanks, Scott, for jumping on. And you mentioned a little bit about the advocacy and things like that. And I think from a chapter aspect, if there's any guidance that can be shared on how we as chapter members might be able to engage within our local states, because I'm not a legislative expert, but I do know drones. So any way that our chapter can support things that you guys have going on locally or at a national level, just let us know. And like Nicole said, we took a little break at the end of last year, but we're excited about continuing these conversations and transitioning from Friday to Wednesday, because like John said, people like to do things on Friday evenings, I guess. So thanks everyone for jumping on and helping us keep this community moving forward.
We got a moment of silence here. Paul, I'll get a hold of you sometime. I really want to catch up on where you guys are right now. I've seen all the reports and all the articles and all the other positive news coming out of there, but I've just been out of the loop for a bit overseas and everything. So you can get caught up with you sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I was super excited to see that you had joined, and it was great to see that you have some understanding of the lighter than airships and aerostats and the helium that powers them. So I look forward to catching up. And if no one else has, anything at this time that they want to add this out, or if you want to go ahead and wrap things up, touch on anything important.
I think we're losing most people. I know we need to talk about exponential, but we can probably talk about that next time when it's closer.
Yeah. Everybody mark your calendars, April 25th to the 28th, Orlando, exponential. I'll be there. Hopefully you guys will be there. be able
Got my
to catch up.
temperature already.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, everyone, again, thanks for joining. And it looks like we're going to close things out here. We look forward to staying engaged with you guys through LinkedIn, Facebook, and the different various social media channels. And again, congratulations to our Riley Beeman, who has been gotten the role of U.S. program manager for the NCDOT. We're really excited about that and looking forward to how he's going to continue to help push the state forward and continue to work with our chapter. But have a good evening, everybody, and fly safe.